Children, I'm a writer from India and I've written many stories for you guys. So I would like to read a story. Would you be interested to hear this story? And the story is called The Boy and the Crocodile. And here it goes. Are you listening? Okay. Siddha was a boy whose parents were dhobis. Now I want you to know dhobis were the people who washed people's clothes. They didn't have in those days in India washing machines or machines to wash the clothes. So people will come to your house and take your dirty clothes with them, and then they would go to the river and they would wash them on the rocks, and then after they were clean and they were dry, they would bring them back. So they were called dhobis. It was like a profession. So his parents, this boy Siddha's parents, were washermen in India. They lived on the bank of a river and spent long days washing people's clothes on the ghats or the steps on the bank of the river. Siddha was an only child. He wished he had other siblings, but it was not to be. Siddha's parents spent every day down at the river, pounding clothes on the rocks, but they never asked him to work. They hoped that their son would have a chance to better himself. Siddha loved water and the creatures of water. After school, he would go to the river bank where his parents were working, touch their feet like respectful Indian son, and run off to find river animals to be his playmates. Now one day he came across a clutch of crocodile eggs just as they were hatching. As soon as the eggs cracked open, the little creatures popped out and headed for the river. But Buddha's horror, he saw huge birds swoop down, catch the tiny crocodiles, and swallow them. By the time he realized that he had to save the babies, all were gone except one. He rushed over and picked it up. A huge, ugly bird swooped down and almost snatched the tiny creature from his hand. But Siddha was able to save its life. He decided to call it Magru. And Magru in Indian language means little crocodile, baby crocodile. He took him home and gave him a small piece of bread, but the little creature wouldn't eat it. Then Siddha dug up an earthworm and gave it to him. Magru loved that. In time, Siddha and Magru became inseparable. Siddha's mother got him a cage from one of the rich ladies for whom she washed clothes. When Siddha went to school, he would leave his friend in his cage, where he would be safe from the vultures and kites that were always flying over the water. Now, with the passing of time, both Siddha and Magru grew. The washerman and his wife were happy to see their son grow, but they were not so sure about his friend Magru, the crocodile. He was full-sized crocodile now, the creature that created big problems. First of all, there was no room in the house to keep him. Next, being poor, they could not afford meat to feed him. "My son," said his mother one day, "nobody keeps a crocodile in a house. What if people find out? We will be in serious trouble." Siddha began to cry. He could never part with his dear friend. All right, you can keep Magru since he is almost a member of the family. But be careful," she said. "Go out only at night so people won't see you," his mother warned him. Now, with the excuse of needing water to wash clothes, Siddha's father dug a canal from the bank of the river all the way to the hut. It ended in the middle of their tiny courtyard. The neighbors were amazed and a little jealous at the washerman's ingenuity. "He has brought the river to his house," they said. "Oh, we are getting old, and the water right in the house will make it easier for us to wash clothes," he said. People wondered why the couple's strapping son, Siddha was strong, couldn't take over the work now. But they knew Siddha was the Toby's only son and that they had spoiled him since he was little. They were, however, still confused about his mysterious life. When night fell, Siddha and Magru would come out through the canal to frolic in the river all night. This also gave Magru a chance to hunt for the frogs and fish. Magru would catch a fish for himself, then catch a fish for his friend Siddha, insisting that he eat it on the spot. Siddha couldn't explain to his reptile friend that human beings prefer to cook their fish. He would bring the fish home where he and parents would enjoy it together. Now one night the boy and the crocodile were having fun and lost track of time. Dawn was breaking as they came home. People were already down at the river bank. A Hindu holy man, a Brahmin, interrupted his morning prayers and screamed when he saw a crocodile swimming by. There had never been crocodiles in this part of the river for quite a while, quite some time now. His shout was heard by the Muslim imam who was washing for his morning prayers. The imam ran to help. The Brahmin pointed out the crocodile that was moving up the little canal which flowed into the washerman's house. They only saw the huge crocodile and Miss Siddha swimming alongside. The terrified men shouted so loud that the whole neighborhood woke up and gathered around. The villagers brought stakes, knives, and swords to save the family from being eaten alive. They didn't know that the family inside the hut had nothing to fear from the crocodile, but everything to fear from their neighbors, circling the hut, armed to teeth. The family could see familiar faces through the holes in the walls and hear voices getting louder and more frantic. "Dear son, we really have no choice but to let your friend go," said the father. "No, if Magru goes, I go," cried Siddha. People were shouting from outside, "Open up!" Some had begun to pound on the flimsy door and walls. It seemed that the hut would collapse at any moment. "Magru is my best friend. We'll slip out quietly. I will be in touch. Don't worry," said Siddha. He hugged his parents. Then he and Magru dove under the water and slipped under the wall of the hut. They swam until they finally emerged far from the hut and the ring of excited people where they could not be seen. Now Siddha and Magru continued down the river to a jungle where there were crocodiles and other animals, but no people. "This will be the perfect place for us to live," Siddha thought. He built a tree house out of the branches and fell asleep while Magru slept below. Soon he was awakened by raindrops on his face. Siddha didn't mind rain, but this was no ordinary rain. It was coming down in sheets. It was so loud that you could hear nothing else. Hours went by, and Siddha felt hungry. He decided to climb down and look for some berries. As he turned, he saw a cobra, a poisonous snake, wrapped around a branch, very close by. Quick as a flash, Siddha snatched a branch and smashed it on the snake. It uncoiled from the branch and fell. Instead of a thump, Siddha heard a splash as the cobra hit water beneath the tree. Instantly, Magru snapped up the cobra and swallowed it. Wait, a splash? Siddha suddenly realized the significance of the sound he had heard. The land beneath him had disappeared. Magru was right where he had been, but now he was floating. There was water as far as Siddha could see. The river had overflowed. Oh no, what about my parents and my home on the river bank? In his anxiety, Siddha completely forgot his hunger. Siddha jumped down, climbed on Magru's back as signal for him to go. Fast, he pleaded. Magru took off at top speed, and soon the boy and his crocodile arrived at the place where his house should have been. But it was gone. There was nothing but water. All the huts in his neighborhood were gone. Where are my parents? Where are my neighbors? Can they all be dead? Tears welled up in his eyes. Then he saw a terrible sight. Strewn all over the water were pieces of wood and debris with people clinging to them, trying to stay afloat. Dozens of heads bobbed all over the river. There were a couple of boats, but they were so overcrowded they were in danger of sinking at any moment. People were trying to bail out the rainwater with their cupped hands, but it was a losing battle. He tried to spot his parents, but he couldn't see them. He heard a girl shriek. Then he heard a woman scream and a man call, "Help!" Siddha realized that the current of the river was fast and people were drowning. There was no time to lose. He had to save them. But the question was, what will I do with them? Where will I put them? There's no high ground. Then in the distance, Siddha saw trees peeking above the water. That is the answer. Siddha steered Magru to the nearest person in the water. It was a girl. She screamed when she saw the crocodile, but Siddha yanked her up and set her before him on Magru's back, as he might have pulled her onto a motorbike. With a slight prod from Magru, Siddha took off for the treetops, and the girl's terror changed to awe and amazement. Siddha deposited her on the branch of a tree that seemed safe and raced off to help other people. In the next few hours, he must have run hundreds of sorties, lifting people from the water and ferrying them to safety. In every case, people's terror at seeing Magru gave way to disbelief and finally joy. But where are my parents? Dear God, please keep them alive, Siddha prayed. By the time night fell, Siddha and Magru had rescued all the villagers who had been stranded in the water. By now a small island had emerged at the base of the trees where the people were gathered. Their fear of the crocodile was gone. Children were touching and patting him. Magru was lying still, enjoying all the attention. The dogs that had found the island stopped barking and came over to sniff him with great interest. But Siddha sat on a stone away from everybody, exhausted and bereft over the loss of his parents. The first rays of the sun woke him. During the night, the water had begun to recede. The roofs of the houses they thought had been washed away were peeking through the water. Siddha couldn't believe what he was seeing. The water was falling fast, and out of it, the village was emerging, clean, shining, and whole. Not a single house had been damaged. It seemed that the flood had simply bathed the village, like giving them a nice bath. Then something caught his eye. Two figures laden with bundles on their heads were wading in the shallow water toward the village. He looked in that direction. My parents! As always, they were returning from the city carrying their customers' dirty clothes. It's a miracle, shouted Siddha. He ran down the hill and splashed to the water toward them. Magru plunged down the hill after Siddha and soon caught up with him. Siddha, his parents, and Magru fell on each other, shrieking with delighted relief. The villagers gathered around, all talking at once. They told the washerman and his wife how their son and his friend had saved the entire village. They hoisted Siddha and Magru on their shoulders, chanting, "Long live Siddha! Long live Siddha!" If not for Siddha and Magru, most of us would have died. They saved our village. I hope they will live with us forever. Now by noon, the water was completely gone from the village. The villagers were amazed to see that their possessions had not been destroyed by the flood. All of the people, cattle, and pets were accounted for. Siddha was happy that he no longer had to hide his friend and playmate. Now today, Siddha and Magru can be seen most days frolicking in the water. When the villagers see them, they smile and feel safe. If heavy rain come down and the river floods again, they know they will not die. Now that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it.